All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new On the Stoa video. Thank you for tuning in. Yes, it's been a very long time since I uploaded my last video. I've been in the process of graduating. I got my master's and then also moving. So I moved from Texas and now I'm in the grand state of Colorado. Today's video is going to be about education, and I think I'll probably make several videos on the topic. And for this one specifically, I want to talk about the idea of what is education actually? Like, what is the process of education? The reason why I bring this up is, of course, we know everything's been going on with the Department of Education and, it being potentially defunded or even cut, all the political yada yada. But I want to go back further than what's happening today. I want to go back to the French Revolution. The French Revolution happened and society just gets revamped, right? The king gets his head cut off, the queen, all of them, they get killed, and society's been rearranged. And now we've entered into this thing of this age of reason, if you will. And they adopt their education system. They create an education system to where the students are going to be focused more on the teacher. It's more about what the teacher's learning. And Prussia, I call it the ancestor to the modern state of Germany, the Prussia sees this and adopts it as their own. And they're like, okay, with this, we're going to create better soldiers who are more pliable and will be able to follow orders when they finally enlist or get into the military. And then this spreads from Prussia to the US. The US takes it and pretty much it fundamentally changes the way the West viewed education. This became known as the Prussian model of education. And we've been through this, pretty much everyone, you yourself probably, if you went through public school, your parents did, your grandparents, your great-grandparents did. What this was essentially, you get your rows of desks, the teacher's in the front, and the teacher is just giving you information. And the goal for you is just to sit there, absorb the information. What the teacher says is what is right. You can't really contradict the teacher. That's, pretty much any form of public education we've been through, you've experienced the Prussian model of education. But I think there is a major problem with this. And I think you go online, you can see a bunch of criticisms of the Prussian model. But I think that it removes the agency of the student for learning. And I say this because education is a two-part process. The teacher, of course, is there to give the knowledge, to impart the knowledge, and to help culture the reasoning that it takes to be able to understand this and future knowledge. But the student also has to buy into that knowledge, has to buy into that process of learning. If the student, whether they're a child, whether they are an adult, don't want to learn, they're not going to learn. There is a process by which the student just undergoes the change to the motivation to learn. If the students aren't motivated to learn, they probably are not going to learn. And so there is a sense of working together that the student and the teacher undergo. The student is the person who is actively putting into the work to learn, and the teacher is the guide. Now, I haven't taught kids. I'm about to enter into my first year of teaching kids. I've mainly taught adults the GED classes for the past couple of years. And so most of what I'm speaking here is mainly from the andragogical perspective, not pedagogical. That's going to come later, a few years, maybe a couple, I'll probably make a video my first year of teaching once that's complete about teaching kids and the differences between that and adults. But most of what I'm talking about here is mainly from the perspective of teaching an adult. Adults, they bring their own prior knowledge, and they've emerged through this process of the Prussian model style of education, for the most part, and they're in their GED class for a reason, right? We've seen that life just either did not give them a good hand, and it just didn't, the system didn't work. The system failed them. And so with this, we see that we have to honestly change the way we view education. It is not just the teacher up there saying, okay, I am the teacher and you will learn, and what I say goes. No, it's not like that. The goal is to guide the student along in their journey to learn. You, the teacher, yes, you have the knowledge. Yes, you have the you're the expert, the subject matter expert, if you will. But the student themselves they the ones have to put in the work to learn. You have to guide them to the answer. I can't just say 2 + 2 is equal to 4. I have to get them to realize that 2 + 2 equals 4. And I think that is another problem with our education system, is that we give answers. We just give. We don't let the student wrestle. We don't let the adults, we don't let probably the children, based on my own experience with the public school system, we don't let them wrestle with the answer. We have to let them wrestle with the information, let their brain start to work, and guide them to the answer. Now, of course, if they're not getting it, then it's okay. Then you might have to give them the answer and then explain the system behind it. But oftentimes, learning happens when you take the student to the edge of what they don't know. Let them peer over, gaze at the wonder, or get the wonder, and then from there, they have the motivation to truly step into that place to learn. All of this to say that education requires both the student and the teacher. It's not just the student. It's not just the teacher. Both are working together to create a culture of learning, because ultimately there's a feedback loop. There is a loop of when the teacher learns something, he's going to teach the student. And the student learns, and then somehow through that process, the teacher's also learning, both about the subject much more deeply, because you ultimately have to know the subject very deeply if you want to teach it to somebody else. But then also, you learn more, the teacher learns more about themselves and how they relate to knowledge and how they relate to students and to people, and whether it's children or adults. So I think it's just time that we take another hard look at education, especially public education. Because honestly, if I'm being honest, the system is failing students. More and more students are getting into our GED classes, and I'm glad that they're here, because I'm happy to see that they're trying to make a difference for their future, for their family, for themselves, to make a change in their life. And the GED place is often the place where they start. But the system, the GED, would not be needed if there were other systems in place and even another approach to education to teach students when they're young. And that way, when they get up and they get out into the world, they have a fair chance of success. There's a bunch of history behind the problems with education and its connection with discrimination, racism, and all that. I'm not really going to go into that in this video. Might do that in another one. But all of this to say, and I'll end it here, we just have to take a good look at our education. How are we teaching our students, whether it's the children or the adults? Why are we teaching them? And ultimately, what is the end goal? Why are we educating? Are we educating to be more, just to create more gears and cogs in the wheel? Or are we educating because we want intellectual people who can critically think, and we just want people who are a well-rounded person, a person who is moral, a person who is righteous? Are we trying to educate just for people to be a slave? Or are we educating because we want to educate the whole person? And there is an aspect of understanding who God is in that, and the depths of the creation around us. All right, that's all I got for y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope y'all stay safe, and I'll talk to y'all in another video. Bye, guys.